What you have found? Like, what are the important news for today's newspaper? Huh? You can see that on the first page. Yesterday, RBI's monetary policy have a meeting, and in that meeting, they have decided to retain what? Repo rate. Fine. So, repo rate is the main interest rate as of right now. It's a main interest rate set by the central bank, and repo stand for repurchase obligation. What we listen as a repo, it full form is repurchase obligation. Fine. So under the repurchase obligation, RBI provide loan to whom? Commercial banks. Right? Commercial banks. But when banks want to take a loan from RBI, they have to give a guarantee. Okay, I will return that money after given point of time. Okay, so this short-term lending by RBI to commercial banks is known as what? Repo rate. Okay, so repo is what? Repo is short-term interest rate offered by RBI to commercial bank. So if RBI will change the interest rate, then bank will also change the interest rate. Why? Because RBI is lending to bank and bank will lend to whom? Public. Fine. So if RBI will change the rate, then bank will also change the rate. And repo rate is a short-term interest rate. Okay. So generally, banks borrow from RBI for short duration. Okay. So for shorter duration, they borrow, and the facility is known as repo. Okay. So RBI have decided to have a same repo rate. Fine. If you'll read this article, certain things are mentioned here. I have already highlighted those things. Like, they have decided to have repo rate at the what? 6.50%. Acha. One more thing for your understanding. What we do, when we go for 1%, okay, in banking terminology, 1% is equal to 100 basis point. So rather than mentioning 1% or 0.5% or 2%, you will find that they are using term what? Basis point. 1% is equal to 100 basis point. And other thing I told you, repo stand for repurchase obligation. So when we will deal monetary policy in detail, then I'll let you know what exactly obligation means here. But as of right now, it is an interest rate on which RBI provide loan to whom? Commercial banks. Fine. It provide the loan to whom? Commercial bank. Fine. And if repo is going to change by RBI, accordingly, banks are also going to change the interest rate for whom? Public. Fine. Now, a quick understanding. When we talk about money, so money have a capability of to generate demand. If people have money, they can demand for goods and services. Fine. But if demand is going to be too high in comparison to what? Supply. Then what will impact on price? If demand is going to be too high in comparison to what? Supply. Then what will happen? Price will increase or decrease? Price will increase. Fine. So here, one thing you have to understand. In order to generate demand, if we are going to increase the money supply, means if you will increase the money supply, then demand will what? Increase. And increase in the demand will help or will motivate to producer. Those who are producing, they saw that key market demand is rising. Then what they will do? Increase the production or decrease the production?
Increase in production.
So say it loudly. Increase the production. So if production will increase, what will increase? Employment. What will be the impact on employment? If production is increasing, employment will also increase. Income increase. Consumption and saving increase. So basically, if you will increase the money supply, it will help to increase what? GDP, employment, and income. But there is a big issue here. Suppose that your income is increased by 8%. Your income is increased by 8%. But at the same time, prices also increase by what? 8%. Income is increased by 8%. Earlier, you was earning 1 lakh rupees. Now you are earning 1 lakh 8,000. So you are happy, my income is increased. But if prices are also increased by 8%, so technically any addition in your consumption has happened? No. Income is increased 1 lakh to 1 lakh 8,000. But still you are purchasing the same amount of good which you was purchasing earlier. Why? Price are also increased by 8%. So this is why it is very important to control what? Price. Until unless price are going to be stable, growth will happen only in the monetary terms, no real growth. Here what happened? His income is increased from what? 1 lakh to 1 lakh 8,000. But that 8,000 increase in the income have no meaning. Why? Because you are consuming same amount what you are consuming earlier. So this is why it is very important. Even if growth is of 6%, growth, GDP growth rate, GDP is growing by 6% only. But inflation is only what? Price rise is only what? 2%. Whereas in this case, what is happening? In this case, price is increasing by 8% and GDP is also increasing by what? 8%. So which one is better? Case A is better or case B is better? Case B is better. Though in this case they have less growth rate, but there is a good difference, a substantive difference in what? Inflation and price rise. So inflation, that is what? 2%, and GDP growth is what? 6%. So GDP growth is 6% and inflation or price rise is 2%. So what is the gap here? 4%. Here there is no gap. So this is why it is said that balanced growth is required. Balanced growth is required. Balanced growth means that growth may be not very high, but there is a substantive difference between what? Growth rate and inflation. Fine. So RBI have both tasks. What task? Maintaining the growth rate while controlling inflation. Maintaining the growth rate while controlling what? Inflation. And as per rule, one rule was made in 2016. Monetary Policy Committee was formed and rule was framed in 2016, and under that rule RBI have to make sure inflation should be 4% plus minus 2%. Means in any case inflation should not go beyond what? 6. RBI have to make sure that inflation should not go beyond 6%. If inflation will high, then RBI have to control the inflation. Fine. So as I told you, what I told you? I told you, suppose money is here. Fine. Money is here. And if we will increase the money supply, then demand and price both are going to what? Increase. So suppose that price are increasing with very fast pace. So RBI will do what? RBI start decreasing money supply. Fine. RBI have to decrease the money supply in order to decrease what? Price. Because money supply helps what? Demand. And if money will decrease, demand will also what? Decrease. And if demand will decrease, price is also going to what? Decrease. Understood? But the problem is, if demand will decrease, then production, employment, income decrease. So this is a dilemma. Here the role of central bank becomes very important. We have to maintain a delicate balance. What delicate balance? Inflation should not go breach what? 6%. It 4%. Ideal is what? 4%. Lowest can be what? 2%. Highest can be what? 6%. So as inflation start reaching towards where? 6%. So RB will start what? RB will start decreasing the money supply. Fine. So what is happening? Now see the detailed scenario. Detailed scenario is the GDP growth rate of India has decreased to 5.1%. GDP growth rate decreased to what? 5.1%. And that is why everyone is concerned that GDP growth is very slow and we have to accelerate it. GDP growth need to be what? Accelerate. And how it can be accelerated? If more money will be there, more production will be there. So everyone is asking RBI ki please increase the money supply. RBI is saying that ki please try to understand inflation is also reaching towards where? 6%. Inflation is also reaching at where? 6%. So it is not possible for us to increase what? Money supply. And that is why what we are going to do? We are not going to change the interest rate. It will be remain what? It will be remain 6.5%. But RBI also know that ki growth rate is what? Creating a problem. Growth rate is a problem or not? So RBI thought that ki anyways I need to help banks. Why? Because banks are the source of lending. People will take loan from whom? People in industry take the loan from whom? Bank. So RBI have found a unique approach. RBI said that okay, I will not give money to you, but I will allow you to spend more. Bank said, how? What RBI said? RBI said that I will not give you the loan, but I will allow you to spend more. What it means that every bank in India, all banks have to maintain cash reserve ratio, CRR. What is it? Quickly. Suppose if a bank is accepting 100 rupees as a deposit. Okay. If bank is accepting deposit from customer 100 rupees, then as per RBI's rule, 4.5% of this deposit should be maintained in what? Cash. So suppose you have deposited 100 rupees in the bank. Then bank will do what? Bank will take that 100 rupees and out of that 100 rupees, 4 rupees 50 paisa, they will put in what? Cash. So what RBI did yesterday? RBI said that okay, I am not going to change the interest rate. Interest rate will be remain same. But I am decreasing CRR for 4.5% or to what? 4%. So CRR is what? 4.5%. But now RBI decrease it to what? 4%. So earlier banks have to maintain how much? 4.5. But now banks have to maintain 4 rupees. It means how much got freed? 0.5 got freed. Very less. 0.5, 50 paisa. But consider this fact. If I will take all the India's bank and then I'll let you know total deposit by all banks. So total deposit by all banks is 100 lakh crore. So in India, banks have accepted this amount of deposit from whom? Customers. So in India, banks have this amount of deposit. If banks have this amount of deposit, that means banks was having how much? 4.5 lakh crore rupees cash reserve ratio. As it was what? 4.5%. So if banks have accepted this amount of deposit, then they have to maintain this amount as what? Cash. But yesterday what happened? CRR changed from what? 4.5 to how much? Now banks got freed how much? 50,000 crore. 50,000 crore got freed. So earlier banks was maintaining how much cash? 4.5 lakh crore rupees cash they have to maintain as per rule of RBI. So RBI have mandated that you have to maintain 4.5. So that value was how much? 4.5 lakh crore. Why? Total bank deposit is 100 lakh crore. Now it is decreased to what? 4%. Means if bank will maintain only 4 lakh crores as a cash, there will be no issue. That means how much got freed? 50,000 crore got freed, just a policy announcement. Imagine, with a policy announcement yesterday. Policy announcement happened yesterday. And from today, 50,000 crore rupees is available in the economy. So immediate injection of the money by RBI. So RBI have not changed the interest rate. So RBI is not going to lend. RBI is not lending. But what RBI did? RBI allowed bank ki what you have as a cash. Of that cash you can use for what purpose? Lending purpose to support what? Economy. So RBI have balanced both things. Fine. And this is why if you will go read this same related news. So on next page, like if you'll go move forward, don't change your page, just I'm showing you. Page number 10. See, what RBI governor said that balance between growth and inflation is unsettled. What it means that balance between growth and inflation is what? Unsettled, says Governor Das. The RBI will use the various policy instruments to create the condition for restoring inflation growth balance, flexible inflation targeting framework. Credibility need to be preserved. Fine. So why governor made this statement? Because there is pressure on RBI to increase what? Decrease interest rate and increase the money supply so that economy can get what? Grow. So actually RBI do not want, what RBI do not want? Ki money supply will be what? Increased. But because GDP growth rate is what? Went very low, 5%. So that is why RBI need to take certain measures like decreasing the CRR in order to support what? Growth. Fine. Acha. These topics, inflation management, growth, they are bit technical in the nature. Fine. So proper definition and understanding of the economy is required. But I hope you have understood briefly ki how money supply impact both inflation as well as what? Growth. And there is a need to maintain a balance between these two. If it is not balance is maintained, then it will create what? Then it will create a big issue in what? Economy. Fine. So in that context, this news was there. Another news on front page is what? Vikram Misra visit to Dhaka. Why his visit is important? His visit is important. What happened in last 6 months at where? Bangladesh. Fine. First, students started protesting. Why? Because as per government rule of Bangladesh government, certain jobs are reserved for those people who have participated in what? Participated in their freedom movement. Fine. And against that, certain people have reservation and they are not agreed with that. Movement started and gradually movement become what? Mass movement. And finally, Bangladesh army have hinted whom? Sheikh Hasina, you have to step down, otherwise we will take certain actions. And aftermath, she ran away from the country, and caretaker government was formed under Muhammad Yunus. Fine. So that caretaker government was formed, but since then, what happens? Lot of bad things happen, especially in the context of what? Minority. So in Bangladesh is a majority country of Muslim population and minority population Hindus and Jains. Fine. And Sikhs are also there. So on minority and their religious place is being attacked. So in that context, India, US and many Western countries have raised a flag. Fine. But apart from that, another issue of tension between what? India and Bangladesh is कि Sheikh Hasina took the shelter at where? India. And the caretaker government is asking government of India to what? Extradite to whom? Sheikh Hasina. Fine. Another thing happened. The relation between Bangladesh and Pakistan is also what? Getting closed. Earlier, government have made that ki any Pakistani who want to take a visa of Bangladesh, they need a security clearance. Until unless security clearance is there, you are not allowed to grant a visa to visit where? Pakistan, sorry, Bangladesh. Now this rule is removed by the present government. Other thing what they did, even any shipment which is coming from Pakistan to Bangladesh, that shipment also need what? Security clearance. But now both of these two clauses are removed by the present government. Means any Pakistani shipment can reach to the Bangladesh port without any security clearance. Earlier security clearance is required. Now security clearance is not required. Now India is having the concern that such moves of whom? Bangladesh may allow Pakistan's inter-surveillance agency ISI to promote or to increase their propaganda in the northeastern state of what? India. Already there are a lot of insurgents, they are operating there. So may Pakistan agency ISI may help them. So now India want that certain things need to be talked. Let's talk, and whatever the differences we do have, we have to iron out those differences so that we can mutually understand each other's need and requirement. So for that purpose, this visit is happening, and once he will reach on Monday, certain things will come out, and you can have those things in the mind from the point of view of what? India-Bangladesh relation. Understood? So these two things are important on front page. Fine. If you will move further, most of the thing related to Telangana, and government have completed almost 1 year. Fine. So new government which was formed last year under Mr. Reddy, that government have completed 1 year. So a lot of things are written here, but not important for the UPSC exam. So you can what? You can ignore. Another event, I hope you have heard the roaring sound of fighter jets. Fine. So tomorrow they are going to perform. So that performance is not important. But what is the name of that team? Surya Kiran team. So Surya Kiran team is a dedicated team of Indian Air Force who perform the mind-boggling aero kind of what? They will go for what? Aerobatics in the air. You can see that in this picture also. Fine. In this picture, you can see that the formation of how many planes? 5, 7, 8. Total 8 planes. And they are performing those aerobatics in the air. Fine. With the coordinated. So Surya Kiran team is one of the famous team in the world who perform on what? Various air shows. And routinely they perform in the different area. On 8th of October, Air Force Day was celebrated at Chennai. Unfortunately, stampede happened. Fine. But still, apart from that, this Surya Kiran team was in action. So Surya Kiran, you have to remember this thing. The Surya Kiran team is what? Is an aerobatic team of Indian Air Force, which they perform their aerobatic maneuvers. Fine. So this is why this term you should keep. So that's why I have highlighted this. Fine. Now, if you will move forward, again, as I said that year of cyber resilience, Fine. So they have mentioned lot of news related to what? Lot of news related to the performance of government. Fine. Mixed bag for bouquet and mixed bags. So again, on 3-4 pages, you can find all these news related to what? Telangana. So obviously, if you are appearing for a state services exam, fine. So in what areas government has performed? Government's performance cannot be generally do not ask in the exam, but in what area, what scheme, what new initiative taken by the government, what is the name of that scheme, how much money is provided in under that scheme, when that scheme was started, who are the targeted people of that scheme, that you must know if you are appearing in what? State services exam. Fine. Here also, not 160 programs implemented. All these news are related to what? Government's performance. Revenue administration sees significant change. Again, it is related to what? Present government's performance. Editorial. On editorial page, you will find that a issue related to what? Public health. Public health is one of the important topic from the point of view of what? It is important topic from the point of view of exam. Fine. And if you can see that regarding public health, they took an example of what? 1896 Bombay plague. In this editorial article, the person who wrote this article, he was not going to tell you how to improve public health system. He actually explained that what you should not do. What you should not do. Fine. What happened during the COVID? During the COVID, government started providing the vaccine, and you have to register for what? Vaccine. Fine. At COVID portal. Fine. And to register yourself at that portal, what information is required? Aadhaar card, mobile number. So many of the personal information it is collected. So these people who wrote this article, they are saying that what happened during the Bombay plague. Plague started 1896 in Bombay presidency, and after that plague started, government, British government, fine, British government, they sent one committee to investigate how to handle this issue. So in order to handle that issue, what committee did? Committee identified the places, not where people got the plague, not people who got the plague, but they started focusing on those areas where generally people will come. So their agenda was supposed to identify the issues and rectify that issue. But rather than going for this, they started doing how we can create a good surveillance network on whom? People. And what they are saying that, British government said that, we are doing this because we want to monitor. There should not be disease. Disease should not spread. For that purpose, we want to monitor. But actually, they are monitoring the movement of the people. What ways are there so that people can be controlled properly? And how it is contrastingly different. See, here you can see that Indian Plague Commission, led by T.R. Fraser. Fine. So Indian Plague Commission led by T.R. Fraser, they have mentioned. Fine. University of Edinburgh. So he came and he started doing what? He started doing surveillance kind of thing. Whereas when in London, 1854, cholera, spread. Then they started focusing on what? How to prevent that disease. So when cholera happened in London, they started focusing on what? How to prevent it. But when plague broke out, what British government is doing here? British government is more focusing on what? Surveillance capacity rather than what? Preventing capacity. So with this example, these people who wrote this article, they want to say that in the name of what? In the name of public health. In the name of what? In the name of public health, governments should not focus more and more on establishing a surveillance network to monitor the people. Rather than they spend the money on what? Curing that disease. So actually what message he want to give? He want to give a message in the name of public health. In the name of public health, governments around the world, they are trying to surveillance the public in the name of what? Public health. But this is not necessary. Rather than focusing on surveillance capacity, government need to spend and focus on what? Government need to spend the money and focus on what? To improving the health infrastructure itself. So rather than focusing on monitoring and surveillance, you have to spend more money on what? More money on means rather than creating a database of Aadhaar, phone number, and other details. You should be more focused on increasing the number of beds in the government hospital and increasing more number of hospital. So money should be spent in the right way. This is the message they want to give regarding public health. And you can use this advice while writing answer on what? Public health. Ki government have to create a proper balance when government is spending on public health. So government have to make sure that more and more money should be spent on what? More and more money should be spent on what? Improving the public health infrastructure. But here one point you can also present as a counterpoint. In today's world and in 1896 world, in 1896 world, do you think that the same kind of the rapid transportation facility was available? World was so connected? No. But today's world is so connected. Fine. So the communicable diseases, fine, and those diseases which can spread very fast. If government is not going to have proper surveillance network, then in that case, that will easily become what? Pandemic. So you have given the example of plague of 1896, and you are questioning government's today's ability of what? Today's ability to surveillance. But in present day's context, if you will see that the rapid deployment and the rapid movement of the public through the communication channels, from plane, from different ways, so it is very important to have what? Surveillance. Basically, COVID entered in India through what? Through those people who entered in the India after COVID broke out. Fine. So if it was not properly monitored and government have not spent that money on what? Government has not spent that money on proper monitoring. Then do you think that the COVID which we have seen, it is going to be what? More dangerous. So in present day's context, we cannot undermine government's spending on what? Surveillance and monitoring. But at the same time, government also have to ensure that the substantive amount of money should primarily spend on what? Substantive amount of money should be primarily spent on health infrastructure first. And at the same time, some amount of money should also spend on what? Monitoring and surveillance. So we need to what? Prioritize infrastructure of health, but at the same time maintaining what? Proper surveillance and monitoring system. So this is what we have learned from this discussion. Understood? Acha. Here, saying the course, the RB has done well to stay focused on inflation amid rate cut clever. Means RB was under tremendous pressure from every section. Fine, industries, government, minister, from everywhere they are facing what? They are facing this issue. But RB have decided that no, we are not going to cut the interest rate. Lending rate from us will be remain same. We are not going to decrease the interest rate because we have to focus on what? Inflation. Why? Why inflation is more important? The reason is कि if prices increase by 8%, okay, prices increase by 8%, who will be get more impacted? Poor people or rich people? Poor people. And in our country, who are more? Poor. So this is why for normal public, it is more important to focus on what? Inflation. Inflation should not increase with the higher rate. But generally what happens, like see, right now RBI bound by the rule, a law made by the parliament, as I told you, in 2016. What law? Ki inflation cannot go past what? 6%. But imagine that if there was no such law, if there was no such law, then imagine that what kind of the pressure is going to be created on RBI. And may RBI can succumb to that pressure and go for what? Rate cuts in order to what? Push the growth. But that law have allowed RBI to stay focused on what? Inflation over what? Growth. Understood? So in that context, they have wrote this editorial. Fine. Now, this one is good one. This article is good one. Building on what? Building on revival of manufacturing sector. So building on the revival of manufacturing sector. So Chandrajit Banerjee have wrote this article, Director of Confederation of Indian Industry. Fine. So he wrote this article, and in this article he have praised the government scheme known as production linked scheme. So government have announced production linked scheme in order to what? In order to encourage production. So if you will go and do the production, government will provide certain incentives to you. Fine. So basically, in rough manner, what is PLI? PLI is a scheme under which government provide what? Government provide incentives. Incentives in the sense, maybe some tax rate will be what? Decreased for you. So that push by the government of India have given a desired result. Production got what? Increased. In this article, he have mentioned here what? Robust growth rate of 21.5%, while the gross value addition increased to what? 7.3%. So he emphasized what happened? PLI scheme is very good. First, he write that PLI scheme is very good, and that PLI scheme have created a very good environment, increasing what? Gross value addition. Means how much production we have added in our country. So how much gross value addition added. And he have given a lot of data. Then he started saying that the success of PLI scheme underscores the need of, the success of this scheme underscores the need to expand its scope. We have implemented one scheme, and that scheme was successful. Now he is saying that because of its success, now we have to increase the space of this scheme to other sectors also, extending the PLI incentive to labor-intensive sector such as apparel, leather, footwear, furniture, as well as sun-rising industries like aerospace, space technology, maintenance and repair facility. They have mentioned MRO. MRO stand for maintenance and repair facility to unlock new growth frontier. Fine. Let's understand this line. So government have implemented PLI scheme for few sectors. For example, mobile phone manufacturing. Many of the mobile phone companies, they have decided to establish their manufacturing plant at where? India. Now he is saying that labor intensive industry. What is meaning of labor intensive? Those industries where lot of labor is required to execute that task. In this classroom space, we can establish an IT company very easily. Make some cubicles, give the laptop, and people start working. But can we establish a steel plant here? Not possible. Fine. Any manufacturing line? Not possible. So there are certain industries where we need very less labor, like IT sector. But there are certain industries where huge number of labor is required. For example, leather industry. Fine. So leather industry is a labor intensive because most of the work is happening manually rather than going for what? Machines. And generally, people who have good paying capacity, those who have very good paying capacity, they prefer to purchase leather goods hand stitched. Fine. So if you will go to purchase a shoes or bag or jacket, and if it is hand stitched, fine, then it is going to be almost 2 or 3 times higher price than what? Machine stitched. Why? Because stitching of that involved lot of labor. Fine. Similarly, fabric industry. So fabric industry, for example, very famous Banarsi sari. Fine. So that one sari needs somewhere around 28 to 45 days of intense labor by 3-4 people, and that is why it is costly. So if we want to promote, fine, not only Banarsi sari, many areas are famous for what? In India, their saris. Fine. Clothes. So these industries where lot of labor is required, if government is going to focus on these areas and provide industry, then PLI scheme can accelerate GDP growth rate in a fast manner. Why? Labor intensive industry, if it will grow, more labor will get the job, more employment will be generated, more income will be generated. So this is why he is focusing on that. Then he mentioned one word here, sun rising sector. What is sun rising sector? A sector which have this factory in the eastern direction and sun is rising from there. That is why it is called what? Sun rising industry. No. Sun rising industry means those industries who starts growing just right now. So India was not an aerospace industry hub. Aerospace industry was not in India. But over the period of time, what happened? India starts growing, so the need of passenger jets. Fine. In last 2 years, Air India and Indigo, they have placed the biggest order of planes, passenger jets in the history. No company have ever placed such an order of 500 to 600 planes. Fine. So it shows that how the aviation industry or the need of air travel is rising in India. And if the air travel is going to rise, obviously more planes are required. If more planes will be there, then their manufacturing here will be more cheaply, or other country it will be more cheaply. Yes. Here. So we can have a scope to establish what? A proper aerospace industry at where? India. So in India, there is a huge potential to grow which industry? Aerospace industry. So when an industry have a huge scope to grow, then we call it as a what? Sun rising sector. Understood? So every year in the budget, government announce what they are going to do what? For sun rising sector. Acha, if aircraft will be there, then its maintenance and repair will be required. So maintenance required purpose, they are going to other. But if maintenance and repair is going to establish at where? In India. For example, Dassault Aviation of France. So Dassault Aviation of France, which manufactured Dassault Aviation aircraft known as Rafale fighters. So India have purchased Rifle fighters. 36 Rifle fighters have purchased. This year, Rafale manufacturer Dassault Aviation announced that they are going to establish their MRO facility, maintenance and repair facility at where? At Noida. So in Noida, they are establishing the MRO facility. But why it is very important? Because not only India's French Rafale, not only India's Rafale aircraft, but also all other Rafale aircraft in that region, like Qatar also have Rafale aircraft. Indonesia also have ordered. Indian Navy is going to order 26 aircraft. 36 we already have. Indian Navy is also going to order what? 26. So all the countries who have Rafale aircraft, their aircraft will be repair and overhaul at where? Here. So MRO can be also what? A big industry. So this is why he has mentioned what? Apparels, leather, footwear, furniture, as well as sun-rising industries such as some aerospace, space technology, and MRO. Space technology also a what? Rising industry. Why? Because government have almost given approval कि now even a private company can also develop their satellites as well as launch vehicles. Fine. And this aerospace industry, the aerospace industry of the world have a volume of more than $400 billion. So every year, somewhere around $400 billion worth business is happening in which sector? Space, aerospace. So India have to take a lead from here, and India should get substantive amount of business. If you remember that day before yesterday, what happened? PSLV have launched what? Probe. Fine. Of which country? European Union. Obviously, what do you think? ISRO have launched it free of cost? No. ISRO have charged now. So in this way, there is a scope of earning good amount of money through what? Space technology sector. Fine. So in this context, he have mentioned this thing. Acha. After that, he is focusing key MSME sector, micro, small, and medium enterprises. And these micro, small, and medium enterprises is also what? Very labor intensive industry. So this is why there is a need to focus. Fine. That is why there is need to what? Focus on that area. Other thing is, he is mentioning कि MSME sector plus what? Women. Fine. So those industries, or if any industry is encouraging more participation of what? Women, then that industry must be provided with what? Production linked scheme incentive. And he have not mentioned this thing because women empowerment is required. He mentioned this thing on the basis of data. What data he have mentioned? He have mentioned that he enhancing female workforce participation and untapped opportunity for boosting manufacturing growth. Fine. Then read carefully. The World Bank's latest South Asia Development Update estimates that India's manufacturing output could rise by 9% if more women are going to join what? Workforce. Very important line, very important data for writing on women empowerment. Even you can use the data in paper 1 in the Indian society, women related issue. In paper 2, where again women related issue. In paper 3, economy, how economy can be robust and more inclusive in the nature by having more participation of whom? Women. And you can cite this data of what? World Bank latest South Asia Development Update estimate. So good data to what? To use for what purpose? Women empowerment as well as what? As well as how to make economy more robust. Fine. So in this way. Achha. One article they have mentioned regarding what? Silica. So on 26th of November, 29th of November, National Green Tribunal have directed. There are many industries, mining industry specifically. So suppose that you are joining mining industry. Fine. And you was not informed by the miner कि while this mining activity, silica dust will be going there. And that silica dust is very hazardous in the long term. So those people who are joining this mining sector, they are not being informed कि silica dust, what kind of the problem can create. It's like you have removed the pictorial warning from the cigarette packet. Fine, you have removed it. So if you have removed it, people do not know that it may cause cancer. So similarly, what are happening? Similarly, NGT have passed an order that now you have to go for what? Now you have to make sure that the guidelines should be what? Implemented. And this is not a voluntary thing. As per the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020. So government have created a code. Under that code, ki on working place, what safety and securities are required, these are the minimum set, which must be provided to whom? Those who are joining. So under that, it is clearly mentioned. But still that is not being what? Implemented. So this is why those people who are joining the mining industry, their health is at high risk. And we have to take this issue more seriously because of the latest problems which we have seen in the mining industry. So in this context, health of workers who are joining such a hazardous sector, it is in the news, and you can go through in more detail occupational safety, health and working conditions code, where what should be provided by the employer to their employees, especially if those employees are what? Those employees are working in what condition? If those employees are working in such condition which may be problematic for what? Health. Fine. So in that context, it is written. Now, this article, which is basically related to what? Cyclone. Fine. So they have mentioned what happened actually. Fine, what happened actually? They have not pinpointed out what are the reasons why it was not handled properly or what can be done. So that is just a narration of what happened actually. So if you want, you can skip it. So that's why I have not given too much importance to this one. Now, in the news, you can see that the Trump administration deserves a lot of credit for Quad. So everybody know that before Joe Biden, who was the president? Donald Trump was a president. And during the presidency of Donald Trump, Quad has emerged as one of the most important organizations. So Trump have made certain decisions to make Quad what? More relevant. So in that context, Mr. S. Jaishankar, he have what? Made this statement, ki Quad. So here, S. Jaishankar's statement is important in context of what? Quad. Quad is comprising of how many countries? 4 countries. Who are the countries? US, Nepal, US, India, Japan, and Australia. Fine. So, India. Fine. If you'll see, US, Japan, and Australia. All these 3 countries are what? Part of Pacific Ocean. Is US is a part of Pacific Ocean? US is not part of Pacific Ocean. West coast of US is having a good presence of what? East coast of US is Atlantic Ocean. West coast of US is what? Pacific Ocean. And Japan is in which area? Pacific Ocean area. Australia. So some part of Australia is in the part of what? Pacific Ocean, and some part of Australia is in which ocean? Indian Ocean. Whereas India is in which ocean? Purely Indian Ocean. Fine. So word is more focusing towards where? Indo-Pacific. So the area which come some part of what? Pacific Ocean and some part of what? Indian Ocean. So that region is known as what? Indo-Pacific region. And in this region, the most powerful country in the Indo-Pacific, not Pacific, not Indian Ocean, the country which is most powerful is whom? China. And China is getting more and more aggressive. Fine. So to counterbalance China, these 4 countries took an initiative. Though these countries always maintain that Quad is not against any one country. Quad is an organization to go for more coordinated effort to maintain regional peace, stability, and economic development. So we have formed this organization for what purpose? Regional peace, promoting what? Socio-economic development in the region. This is the objective of Quad. But everybody also know that what is an objective of Quad? To detain what? To prevent China to go for what? More aggressive maneuvering. Fine, more aggressive maneuvering. So this is why, like Quad countries, they also do certain exercise, military exercise, time to time. Fine. So we are focused towards where? We are focused towards maintaining peace, economic development, and social harmony. But if any country will be what? Will be more aggressive, we will try to prevent him. Fine. So this is why Quad is very important organization, even from the Indian foreign policy also, because India is also focusing on what? Indo-Pacific region. Fine. So with this context, it is very important. And in this context, You can follow news related to what? Quad. Okay. Now, Indira Gandhi Peace Prize is given to whom? Michelle Bachelet. She is a former Chilean president. Here, her name is important, but Indira Gandhi Peace Prize. So Indira Gandhi Peace Prize, actually its name is Indira Gandhi Peace and Disarmament Prize. So for peace, maintaining peace and disarmament and promoting what? Women and child welfare. So basically Indira Gandhi Peace Prize for what? Indira Gandhi Peace Prize for, you can see that this prize is given for what purpose? It is given for the purpose of peace and disarmament and development. So three things: peace, disarmament, and development are the three topics or three major area of Indira Gandhi Peace Prize. And it was given to whom? Chilean president. Why? Because she played a role for UN Women. So like UN Human Rights Commission is there, UNESCO is there, but there was no dedicated organization in UN for whom? Women. And she was a president of Chile, then she took an initiative that there should be one dedicated organization for whom? Women only. And for that kind of the efforts, international jury for the award was chaired by a former National Security Advisor, Shiv Shankar Menon. So, to whom this prize should be given on annual basis? There is a jury which is comprised of many eminent experts, and it is headed by whom? Former National Security Advisor Shiv Shankar Menon and other international experts. And all of them, they have decided that this prize should be given to whom? Michelle Bachelet. Fine. So her name is important. She was a founder of what? She was founder of UN Women and former president of what? Chile. Fine. So same news can be formed as a question. Consider the following statement about Indira Gandhi Peace Prize. Fine. It is given for the field of peace, disarmament and development. Or how to make this a statement incorrect? This Indira Gandhi Peace Prize is given only for the field of what? Peace and disarmament. Development usne uda diya. They removed this development, but it is given for what purpose? Three purpose: peace, disarmament, and development. Fine. So you have to be careful here. Then this year's prize was given to whom? Given to Michelle Bachelet. Fine. Third statement. Michelle Bachelet, she is a former Chilean president, and she was known for his contribution to establish what? UN Women. And she was a founding head of UN Women. But if you have not this idea, then you cannot attempt this question until unless you have a clear information about her. Fine. So this question is a good potential question to be asked in what? Exam. Other news are basically nature of what? Political news. So there is no need to go for what? This one. This issue is consistently coming in the news. Actually, that is not a main issue. Main issue is Worship Act. Worship Act. What Worship Act says that? Worship Act was passed in which year? 1991. And what it says that? It says that at the time of independence, whosoever was having the religious place, whosoever is controlling religious place, suppose that one religious place is controlled by a religion, fine, at the time of what? Independence, 1947, 15th of August. So if that place is controlled by a religion A at that point of time, then it cannot be put under question mark. Earlier it was under which religion. So we should not open such kind of thing. Then why Ayodhya case was open? Because it is the case which is even before under court, even before independence. So even before independence, the case was in the British court, British India court. So that is why Ayodhya case. But right now, what is happening? Right now, many of the places, the same issue happened in the Sambhala also. Fine. So many religious places are under scrutiny and some sort of what? Some sort of surveys happening. And that is why certain section of the media and intellectuals, they are saying that it is completely against what? It is completely against Place of Worship Act. So government is asked by the court, clear your stance. Court have asked to government ki clear your stance on what? What is your stance on, what is your view on Worship Act? And government have maintaining what? Silence on that issue. So this is why this issue may become a very big issue. Fine. If government is going to make any amendment, the act was passed in which year? 1991. Fine. So if any change is going to be brought by the parliament, by the government, it may create lot of litigations around the country. Fine. So this is going to be very sensitive case with respect to what? Very sensitive case with respect to India's social system, religious harmony. So how this issue is going to be handled by parliament and judiciary, that is worth to watch. So you should have a keep eye on such articles which is mentioning of what? Place of Worship Act. Fine. India's growth story encompasses with what? Northeastern state. So Prime Minister have highlighted the importance of what? Prime Minister have highlighted the importance of Northeast. Why Northeast is important? He was just inaugurating one festival which is known as what? Ashtalakshmi, which is considered as what? It is considered as Mahotsav, Ashtalakshmi Mahotsav for the better future of what? Northeastern states. Fine. So he was there. So he highlighted the importance of what? Northeast. I told you that when Prime Minister, President, Vice President, they are going to make any statement, have a close eye on it. So he highlighted the importance of what? Northeast. And sometimes Northeast also called as what? Seven Sisters. Okay. Center to develop more fewer tourist destination with the help of whom? World Bank. So World Bank is an agency. They also provide what? They also provide assistance in terms of what? How to develop tourist place. So this is generally what we have a perception regarding World Bank. World Bank is an organization which provides the money for what purpose? Development purpose. Basic facilities like water, drinking water, irrigation, but they are also helping on what basis? Development of tourism. But if you will read this article, you will find that here World Bank is not going to provide the money. World Bank here is going to provide its technical assistance. And World Bank is comprised of two agencies, IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and International Development Agency. So when we say World Bank, it is of two organizations, IBRD and IDA. So actually IDA is going to provide development assistance, technical assistance, what things should be done, what you have to do to develop that place as a what? Tourist place. Proper connectivity is there. Fine, hotel industry should be there, hospitality industry should be there. So in that way, they will provide assistance. Fine. Acha. Employees Provident Fund Organization wins the global award, EPFO. So EPFO is an organization which makes sure that some mandatory saving should be done by the employees, and that savings will be provided to the employees later on for their better economic welfare. So for that purpose, there is what? They are being awarded. DGCA. Actually, what happened? Pilots are getting stressed. And that is why they have mentioned that you have to go for what? You have to go for rest. So that rule have to be implemented by next year. But they are insisting that it should be implemented on what? Immediate basis. Fine. So these are the things. Acha, for economy page, the news, main news is what? Main news is repo rate cut, which we have already discussed. Fine. So these are some important updates with respect to what? Today's newspaper. Okay. Thank you.